I couldn't get over the fact that it wasn't a manual. Yeah, but when you got a manual, there you go. Yeah. I think being part of the Need for Speed and Fast and Furious generation, I think Japanese cars will always hold like a special place in my heart.
Hello there, and welcome to the T-Junction. I'm Jats. Now, for the eagle-eyed viewers out there, you'll probably notice that Dhroov is sitting alongside me, but we're not in a Honda Civic Type R. We are in something quite different. Dhroov, what on earth happened since our last conversation?
So, hello everybody. I'm back again for another episode. So, I had a 3-car shortlist. A Lexus LC500.
Oh, lovely.
Beautiful cars. Porsche 911 and the new Civic Type R.
Right. So the new FL5?
FL5 Civic Type R,
yeah.
Absolutely. So those were the 3 cars on my real sort of short list.
Okay.
And we thought we'd start with number 3 on the list, which would be the new Civic Type R.
Why was that?
I think I'd be doing myself a disservice if I didn't go to have a look at it.
Okay.
I'm already very, very used to the Honda. I loved that thing to pieces.
Yeah.
I owned that for nearly 4 years.
Yeah. But I think the difference isn't huge, is it?
No.
By all accounts, in terms of the drive anyway. So
No.
your looks is very different.
The looks are very different,
Yeah.
but the actual to drive is very much the same. The engine's the same,
Yeah.
suspension setup is the same, interior slightly updated.
Yeah.
That's about it, really.
Yeah. Because I remember you calling me and saying, do you fancy coming out? Because I'm going to go and have a look at the Honda Civic Type R.
Yeah.
And I couldn't say no, could I?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So we went for it.
Yeah.
I seem to remember when we got to the Honda garage, you were quite excited, like a little kid.
Yeah.
You were hopping and skipping as you went in.
Yeah.
But you weren't hopping and skipping when you came out.
No, I mean, I think being part of the Need for Speed and Fast and Furious generation, I think Japanese cars will always hold like a special place in my heart. So I had very high hopes for it, absolutely.
Yeah,
and don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic car. Looks great, but was it worth 20 grand more than what I already had?
And that was the question, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because what you were getting was fundamentally the same car.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, it is slightly better, but is it £20,000 better? And that's the question you've got to ask yourself. Because, in fact, it would have been more than 20,000 because there weren't any used ones available, and you would have been looking for a brand new car, wouldn't you?
Correct.
So you would have been paying about £25,000 roughly more to trade up from a car with 13,000 miles on the clock to something that was, well, it was equally as good, not a huge amount better. Yes, of course, the interior was different, wasn't it?
Yes, interior was different. Interior was lovely. Seats were very much the same, just red compared to the black that I had previously.
Yeah.
But other than that, pretty much the same. Slightly better infotainment system.
Yes.
50 grand car. It's
exactly.
Crazy
it was a £50,000 car, wasn't it? And then I remember you standing in front of it actually and saying to me, no, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think inside I was looking at it, I was thinking, I can see myself buying one. Like, this is it, this is sorted. Then I stood outside and looked at the car from the front and I thought, actually, you know what, this is the same car. Even like little things like the parcel shelf is identical. The hump in the boot is identical. Yeah. Everything was pretty much exactly the same. So would it have been worth it for me to upgrade from what I had already? Probably not.
So we walked out of there, as I say, and your tail was down a little bit. I think that's the only way I can put it.
I think I thought to myself, the rest of the day is going to be like this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, I did think, oh, okay, fair enough.
So then we set off to go towards the Lexus dealership. Now, the Lexus dealership in Leicester, from where the Honda garage was, drives straight past the BMW garage. And I know that you wouldn't buy a BMW.
Yeah.
So there was nothing in it for me at that point at all, other than me saying to you, would you like to go and have a look at an Alpina?
Yeah.
And see if they've got one. Just have a look. And you weren't going to buy one. You weren't even interested in it. But it was just to see if... Because I've always raved about Alpinas, and I know you haven't.
Yeah.
And it was a question of just trying to understand whether you know...
That was an option. Yeah, absolutely.
And it was on the way. We were early, I think, as well.
We were early, so we were running ahead of time. So we thought, why not? Let's go and have a look.
Yeah.
And they had a beautiful Alpina... Was it a B4? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a green B4 that
metallic
had
green
outside.
B4 sitting outside, yeah.
Absolutely stunning. And I think what they had almost at the start when you walked in was an M2 4Ti in frozen, like I think it's Portimao blue. It was fully loaded.
Yeah.
Looked great.
And interestingly, it was the same price as the Honda Civic Type R.
Yes, pretty much the same price.
Yeah, I think it's about £2,000 more, I think it was, wasn't it?
Barely anything in it. So I thought to myself, hang on a second, I'm getting X-Drive, which, you know, we live in the UK, so winter roads and winter was coming up soon, so that was kind of something to think about. Fundamentally, a brand upgrade,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it has to be said. Like I said, I love my Hondas, but a brand upgrade. Interior quality was better.
Yeah.
But the only thing that was different really was the automatic gearbox.
Exactly. And I think when we spoke to the salesman, Dhroov Chauhan, who was absolutely brilliant, I've got to say, he offered us a test drive in one of their demo cars. And initially, when we drove out from the garage, I think as soon as the engine started and you heard a 6-cylinder, because you've not owned a 6-cylinder engine before.
Never. No.
I saw the look on your face and it was like, wow.
Yeah. B58 sounds great. Absolutely.
That's a real engine, a proper engine, rather than the 4-cylinder that you used. Which was very good. The K20 is brilliant.
Yeah. It didn't sound great.
No, but in terms of it doesn't exactly.
No.
But in terms of a 6-cylinder, you went from one of the best 4-cylinder engined cars that are out there to one of the best 6-cylinder engine cars that are out there, and the difference was quite stark, wasn't it?
It was a huge difference. Absolutely. As an engine and a powertrain, it's probably fine, but I couldn't get over the fact that it wasn't a manual.
Right.
And I'm so used to driving a manual, and as you can tell, I'm driving a manual right now.
Yeah.
Driving something automatic just really was a big issue or a problem for me.
Right.
And it just wasn't comfortable. It was just cumbersome. I didn't feel engaged to the drive.
Yeah.
I think little things like BMW steering, it wasn't quite as direct as the Honda steering. So putting all those things together as a package, it wasn't for me. And like you say, pretty much as soon as I drove out the showroom, I thought, nah, I can't
straight away. I think it
this.
was like, I don't want to do this. And I think you're a little bit like me in that respect, because when you're driving a car, you're operating a machine and you want to operate the machine. There's no point in the machine operating you, because that just becomes a waste of time. So especially if you want to enjoy your drive.
Yes.
So I remember taking the car for a drive. Now, you drove it. I jumped in and drove it as well. And for you, it was a completely different experience. What was your comment when we got back?
Have you got anything in manual?
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
And Dhroov, I think Dhroov initially said, well, you can only get the M240i in automatic mode with the X-Drive.
Yeah.
And then he asked you whether you would consider an M car. And we were thinking old M cars at that point, weren't we?
We were thinking, okay, well, so what are you thinking about?
What manual M car?
Yeah, what manual M car? You're thinking like E92, because that's a bit too old for what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I wanted something a little bit more modern. Yeah.
Yeah, up to your price budget.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it came down to, because in the end, he said, look, I can get you into an M2, didn't he?
And at that point, I hadn't even considered an M2. That wasn't on my list of 3 cars.
Yeah.
But when he said M2, because it's not an M Lite, it was a full M, I thought, oh, okay, maybe something interesting coming up. Not a B58, slightly better, well, the tuned version of
the S58.
S58, exactly, right? So I thought, okay, interesting. And the S58's a lovely engine.
He mentioned that there was one M2, a manual one.
Yeah.
Which is quite rare, because they seem to have mostly automatics, don't they? I think it's fair to say.
Absolutely.
But he was aware of one actually in the system that Sitna had.
And it wasn't new.
And it wasn't, well, it was almost new, wasn't it?
Almost new.
So this particular car, the list price was 67,000.
Yes, from new.
From new. It was 4 months old on a 24 plate, and we were in the year 2024, so it wasn't, it was only 4 months old.
800 miles on the clock.
800 miles on the clock,
absolutely,
actually, yeah. And it was just in time for it to have its running in service. So it had its running in service. Whoever had bought the car before had bought it and I think given it back, hadn't they?
I think they probably bought it.
Yeah.
Run it for a few months. Maybe realised it wasn't as practical enough for them, or maybe they wanted 4 doors or something.
Or an automatic.
Or an automatic, absolutely. And then handed it back. Absolutely. Who knows? Different circumstances.
But you made a massive saving.
Yeah, absolutely. And basically 17 grand off their list price. So it came down to just over 50,000, which then brought it into budget for myself all of a sudden.
Yeah. So we were talking about depreciating assets. I mean, whoever owned this car only had it for a few months, and they lost a lot of money because there wouldn't have been much of a discount on this car.
No.
Let's face it.
It's an M car, so absolutely not.
It's an M car,
it's
so
quite sad. Yeah.
Exactly. And you sort of do feel there must be a story somewhere about why that person let that car go. And if you did own this car before, and the registration number will be on some of the images that we're showing, and you do watch this video, please do get in touch, because it would be amazing to hear your story about what happened. Let's talk about the finance deal then, because all of a sudden your ears pricked up when they told you could have an M car, a manual one.
Because at that point I was coming from a Civic Type R, which, don't get me wrong, was a fantastic car, but M car is like, ooh, I could get myself into an M car all of a sudden. It's something that you'd think about.
And it's a new M car, isn't it?
It's a new M car,
It's one of the newer generation of M cars.
Absolutely.
So all of a sudden, you know,
It's a G series platform.
Yeah, and you have driven an M4 before, haven't you?
Yeah, driven an M4 before, absolutely. And as a whole package, it was fantastic to drive. So very excited at the prospect of an M2 all of a sudden.
So what finance deal did you come to?
So PCP.
Yeah. Okay.
The deposit contribution was just over 7,000.
Right.
And monthly payments were £550 a month.
Okay.
So how did I get to that figure? So the Honda had quite a lot of positive equity. So
That's right. We covered that in our previous episode. And
we did, yeah.
incidentally, if you want to see the previous episodes, if you click on the link in this video or in the description, you'll get to see Dhroov's journey as he was navigating his way through with his Honda Civic Type R, roughly how much it was worth and what to do, because he was thinking of actually selling that car at the time.
Yes.
And preparing himself for his next venture into cars. So you might enjoy that one.
Yeah, so the Honda had quite a lot of positive equity. So I wanted to try and get the best deal possible to try and recoup some of that equity back.
Sure.
And this was obviously cash that I didn't have to put towards a car. It was tied up in something that I could then transfer over to something
it
else.
wasn't money that you had, it was equity that was already in the car.
Yeah.
It wasn't something you were having to pay out of your pocket.
I wasn't losing out, my bank balance wasn't going lower, if that makes sense, but an asset was being moved around, right?
That's right, yeah.
Exactly. So BMW sitting there weren't offering me what I was expecting for the car.
Right. How much did they offer you?
About 24.
Right, okay.
And I knew that the car, if I sold it privately, would be worth at least 28 to 30.
Right.
Somewhere in that price bracket for the condition that it was in, which is immaculate, with very low miles,
car.
in a rare spec, in a sport line spec. So it was an uncommon car, only 150 in the country, etc.
Sure.
So I knew at that point that I had a bargaining chip, but unfortunately Sitno weren't able to do anything with that.
Sure.
Which is a shame. But in the end, so I shopped around to see where else I could get money for the car. So I went, had a look at brokers, etc. And it was working out, maybe quite uneconomical. I might as well just have gone with Sitno. Would have been a cleaner and easier sale.
Yeah, because I think the broker was quoting you about 2,500 to sell your car.
Yeah.
And they would market it for around 29, 30,000, but you'd be getting about 26, 27,000 pounds back if you were lucky.
Yeah, yeah. So in the end, I started looking at your We Buy Any Cars, etc.
Yeah.
We Buy Any Car were matching Sitno's price. I then looked at Motorway.
Yep.
Yeah, Motorway. They were slightly more than Sitno, so I thought, okay, fine, a grand is a grand. I might as well make the most of that.
Yeah.
And then in the end, I had to look at CarWow.
Yeah.
So CarWow were offering me considerably more.
Right.
28 grand.
This is for a car with a list price of 33,500.
Yeah, over 4 years.
For nearly 4 years.
Yep.
13,500 miles, which is low, but they
Yep.
were giving you only £5,000 less than what you paid. So
Basically.
that there was your positive equity.
Absolutely, the positive equity was huge. Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
quite a big thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
So it did make sense, didn't it? I suppose at that point to do that.
Yeah.
And I think how much did you owe on your finance?
About 17 and a half. So I was
Right.
making just over 10 and a half in positive equity, effectively.
And how much deposit did you put down on this car then?
Just over 7.
So you actually pocketed some money, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
That?
As a result, with all the fees and road tax and everything,
Yeah.
it was working out to just under 3 grand that I basically pocketed.
Okay, so you came out of a car, went
Yes.
into an M car.
Yes.
You put £3,000 in your pocket, and your monthly payments have gone up.
Yeah.
I think they've gone up by about £120 or
About 130 quid per
about
month.
130 a month.
Yeah.
But you've ended up in what is virtually a brand new M2.
Basically a brand new M2. Which I had it running in service.
Yeah. That sounds like quite a good deal to me.
Absolutely, it was a great deal, and I think I have to send a big thanks to BMW Sitno for finding a fantastic car.
Yeah.
Especially Danil Chauhan, who was the salesman.
Leicester Sitno, yeah, he was brilliant. I've used Danil before when I bought the 530D, and when I bought an A-Class Mercedes in the past as well. So, I knew Danil from then, but he's worked at different dealerships. He's held different positions, but he's been fantastic, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Very knowledgeable about the product, which is which is one thing that I do like about Sitno in Leicester. Most of their salespeople are incredibly well heeled.
And they're knowledgeable, but they're also passionate about cars, which is quite nice to see.
Yeah.
Because most of them, they're sitting there selling a car or selling a product they don't really have any passion about.
Yeah.
And it's scary.
Thing, isn't it?
It's scary.
You walk into a dealership and you've done your research, and sometimes you think, well, actually, what you're telling me doesn't quite sound right.
No, it's not right. Exactly, it's not spot on at all. Absolutely.
And then you go back and fact check it again, and you know you're right.
Exactly.
But that's even worse. So
Exactly that.
It does happen. I mean, that happened. I should say it really. It did happen at the Honda dealership.
Yeah.
The salesman, when we went to look at that Type R, the FL5 wasn't great, was it?
No, it wasn't great. Unfortunately, not quite as presentable.
No.
Little things like that. It's very, very important when you're buying a premium product,
Yes.
a 50 grand product.
Yeah, big difference. Absolutely. Yeah. You went to a dealership where they sold normal family cars, and you're looking at the top of the range thing.
Yeah.
Here, what you've done is you've gone to a premium car brand showroom, and you're looking at something probably around the middle of their range and the lowest range in their high performance models, right?
Correct. It's baby M car, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, and a used car, not a brand new one. So again, slightly different.
But they made it special. I mean, even though it's a used car, you know, they did a little unveiling for me and stuff, which is really sweet.
Yeah, because you showed me the photo of the unveiling when you went to pick it up, which I thought was pretty good. They don't sometimes they do it on a used car, but generally speaking, that's for brand new cars.
Yes.
Isn't it? So,
which is very, very good of them. But yeah, I mean, it's been a big change from the Civic. Big change from the Civic.
So, okay. Yeah. So you've done quite well, I think, in terms of the deal you got, because you know, just to summarise, right? Yeah. You've got a £67,000 car. Yeah. You've basically got it for just over 50. Yeah. Okay. Your monthly payments have only gone up by £120, a whole notch up, if you like, in terms of the car. You've gone back to almost a 3-year full warranty. I mean, blooming, this thing's incredible. You've moved up to back to almost 3 years warranty and all the rest of it. So you've got all the benefits of a new car, pretty much.
Exactly that.